The moment Marcus heard the words being twisted into lies, his hands went still on the leather folder, and he felt the ground beneath him shift in a way that had nothing to do with the polished marble floors of the Meridian Grand. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet courage of ordinary people, like this video, drop a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, because stories like this one deserve to be heard. Marcus Dellaway had been on his feet for 11 hours by the time the private dining room on the 14th floor filled with the kind of people who never noticed men like him. He was 41 years old, divorced, and raising his 9-year-old daughter Lily alone in a 2-bedroom apartment where the radiator knocked all winter and the hot water sometimes ran cold before dawn. He had a degree in international business that sat in a box under his bed, a reminder of the life that had quietly collapsed after his wife left and the corporate job dissolved and the world decided, without asking, that he was done with big things. Waiting tables at the Meridian Grand was not where he had imagined himself at this stage of life, but it paid enough to keep Lily in school shoes and soccer cleats and the small dignities that children deserve without ever knowing their cost. He was good at the job. He was invisible in the way that good waiters are invisible, present when needed, absent when not, and always listening without appearing to listen. The dinner that evening was unlike anything the hotel had hosted in recent memory. A billionaire named Arthur Crane, the kind of man whose decisions moved markets and closed factories and opened hospitals depending on the day, had flown in from London to finalize a partnership agreement with a regional investment group. The deal, Marcus had gathered from fragments of overheard conversation, involved a development project that would bring thousands of jobs to a part of the country that had been quietly dying for 2 decades. It was the sort of deal that didn't make headlines until it was done, and then it made all of them at once. Arthur Crane sat at the head of the long table with the careful stillness of someone accustomed to rooms falling quiet when he entered them, and beside him sat his translator, a polished, silver-tongued man named Vincent who had been handling Crane's international affairs for years. Marcus moved through the room with practiced ease, refilling glasses, removing plates, existing in the edges of things. He had spent enough years around business negotiations, both from the inside and from the periphery, to understand the rhythm of them. He understood when a conversation was progressing and when it was stalling. And somewhere between the appetizers and the main course, he understood something else entirely, something that made his stomach drop to the floor and his mind go dangerously, sharply awake. Vincent, the translator, was not translating accurately. The regional partner spoke a dialect Marcus had studied intensively during 2 years abroad in his 20s, a period of his life that felt like someone else's memory but had apparently never fully left him. Vincent was softening Crane's firmest conditions, inflating numbers that Crane had quoted conservatively, and, most critically, misrepresenting an environmental clause that Crane had stated was non-negotiable as something flexible and open to revision. The partners across the table were nodding with the relieved smiles of men who believed they had won concessions they had not, in truth, been given. Crane was nodding too, satisfied that his terms were being faithfully communicated. No one in that room knew what Marcus knew. No one except Vincent, whose eyes swept the room once with the practiced calm of a man who had done this before and never been caught. Marcus set a water glass down so carefully it made no sound and walked back to the service corridor, where he stood with his back against the cold wall and thought about Lily. He thought about the mortgage on an apartment he didn't own, about the school trip she had asked about twice now without pushing, knowing without being told that pushing was a luxury they couldn't always afford. He thought about the fact that a single complaint from a guest at the Meridian Grand could end his employment, and that men in his position did not easily find other positions. He thought about all the reasons a person stays quiet, and he found that none of them, not one, felt like enough. Because he also thought about the thousands of people in that dying region who would sign contracts based on terms they didn't actually have, and the collapse that would follow when reality arrived and the ink was already dry. He thought about what he would tell Lily, someday, about the night he had stood in a service corridor and chosen between safe and right. He walked back into that dining room, approached Arthur Crane with the quiet deference of his role, and asked, in a voice low enough not to carry, whether Mr. Crane might permit a brief private word before the documents were signed. Crane looked at him the way powerful men look at waitstaff, with mild surprise at being addressed directly, and then something in Marcus's expression, some quality of stillness and gravity, made him pause and nod almost imperceptibly. What followed happened quickly and changed everything slowly. Marcus spoke to Crane privately for 4 minutes in the corridor. He was calm, precise, and did not editorialize. He stated what he had heard, compared it to what had been said, and offered to repeat the exercise in front of witnesses if needed. Crane's expression did not change visibly, but something behind his eyes moved in a way that suggested entire internal architecture's shifting. Vincent was quietly removed from the room. The dinner was paused, then resumed with a different interpreter and a fresh reading of terms. The deal, reconstituted on honest ground, was eventually signed in a form that all parties actually understood. Marcus finished his shift that night, drove home, and carried his sleeping daughter from the couch to her bed without waking her. He stood in her doorway for a long moment in the dark, listening to her breathe, and felt something he hadn't felt in years, not pride exactly, but the quiet, solid weight of having been, in at least one moment, exactly who he wanted to be. 3 weeks later, an envelope arrived at the hotel addressed to him by name. Inside was a letter from Arthur Crane, a job offer in Crane's International Operations Division, and a handwritten note that said simply, "The world needs more people who tell the truth when it costs them something. I hope you'll bring that quality to my team." Marcus read the note twice, folded it carefully, and placed it on top of the box where his degree had been sleeping for years. Speech balloon. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that ordinary people carry extraordinary courage, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear it today, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps these stories reach the hearts that need them most. Comment below, would you have done what Marcus did? Tell us your honest answer, we read every single one. Sometimes the most powerful thing a person can do is simply refuse to look away.